Might be a little interesting. Ask everybody, watch your triggers today. Watch your triggers. Watch your triggers. Attention to. And today I actually saw some news that I think we need to look at. I do. I think it's real news. I think all the rest of this stuff is nonsense, but this is deep. This is South Africa. If you guys aren't watching, we need to talk about land ownership. I had that discussion. Not a good one. Watch your triggers. Watch your triggers. Remember, we don't do lies here. We don't do made up history. We do real history. So let's be careful today. Good morning, brother Zach. Kelly, what a great day. Every day is a great day, Kelly. Monica, good morning. Brenda, Stephanie. Florida's a mess right now. Yeah, so is Pennsylvania. So is South Africa. So is Britain. So is the whole world's a mess because we colonized the whole damn world. We gave all the money to a few elite. Some people who work for the colonized, they thought they were going to be helped in the future. Didn't happen. They got turned on. The colonized turned on everybody. 0.01%. It used to be 2%. Now it's like 0.01%. Good morning. Good morning. Aiden and Lisa. Good morning, Aja. Brother Gown early in the house. Yeah, watch the trigger. We gotta watch the trigger. We gotta talk about colonizers today, Brother Gown. You know, that gets a little rough. Top of the morning, Glenn, Deborah, Kimberly, Brother Bill. Yeah, Brother Bill. All right, watch the trigger, brother. Watch the trigger. I know the little bastards came for you. I know. There's bastards on all sides. So let's stay focused on the bastards on all sides. All of the colonizers. Indeed. Good morning, everybody. But I don't want to get anybody confused and start thinking that I got the solutions to South Africa. I don't. I do not have the solutions to South Africa. I don't have the solutions to colonization. I have some ideas and some thoughts, and it's good as a world community that we have these discussions, right? Because it's very important. Good morning, Crystal. So much ignorance when it comes to South Africa. There is, Crystal, because you have so many extreme sides now. Everybody got to watch them triggers. Everybody get your trigger, put trigger down. They got safety lock on the gun, right? Everybody get your safety lock on your trigger. Safety lock. Safety lock. I'm gonna say something now. Safety lock, everybody. We all colonized, okay? Everybody, no matter who you are, if you are a human being and you got two legs, your ancestors murdered somebody for their land. So let's be clear. So this is not, and let's be clear about another thing. It's not about who colonized more, who was better at it, who lucked up, went to China, got some guns, put them on a ship. It's not about that. It's about what do we do with the children of the people who didn't colonize? That's the question. Safety lock. Yes, Kimberly. Put this in. Press the button. Put the button. All right, come on, because we don't play solar energy race games here. We don't do that. This is not the solar energy race game place. Let's have an honest, truthful discussion about the problems in the world and how to fix them. Because the world was broken. We broke the world because we handed most of the land to a 0.01%. And we got to think about how to fix it. So I think people need to be paying attention to South Africa and how they're attempting to fix it through the, what is it being called? The South African land reform or land reappropriation, where they're taking land from a lot of the white farmers. I think they're taking land from the black farmers too. Like, but there's a whole racist thing that's happening, right? And this is the problem with scarcity and poverty and playing these race games, playing these games that you can tell if somebody is good or bad by looking at their skin, stupid stuff like that. But it's important to accept the fact that we are all children of colonizers, all of us. And all of us are children of those who were colonized. And all of us all lost land. We've all had murdered ancestors, every single one of us. So let's speak from that perspective, right? So maybe we should just go straight to the news and just let them kind of let them set it up. But watch your triggers now. Watch your triggers, because like I said, we don't play trigger here. We don't play, positive racism here. We just play. We got a big problem. The whole world was colonized. How do we fix it? So let's watch the news real quick, because this is news. This totally is news. And the question I want you to think on your mind, we need to answer by the end of this, is how. If everything on this planet eats, does it make sense for any creatures to own land? Now, it's a difficult question, because I'm not sure there are any good answers to this, right? But there's a difference between owning the land and land being appropriated to you because you're a human being and you keep the land, you work the land, versus you hold on to the land because you want to have more than what other people have. So this is watch our triggers. Let's go to the news. Let's let them set it up, and then we'll get into it. But I've got some thoughts on land ownership, and I think that is a colonizing strategy that we all did, going back all the way back to the beginning, the first tribes who killed the other tribes and took their lands. Let's watch the news for a minute.
Tessa, the background to this is that back in the apartheid era, in fact, dating back from more than a century ago, many black people were dispossessed of their land. And yet 25 years after the end of apartheid, much of the land remains, especially the best quality land, remains in the hands of white people. After 1994, the ANC brought in a voluntary scheme known as willing seller, willing buyer. The idea was the government would buy up land to redistribute to black people. And yet there's been incredibly slow progress on this. The target was for something like 30% of that land to be redistributed. Only around 10% actually has. Land and agriculture are very important in South Africa, and the economy has been performing extremely poorly. Unemployment is extremely high, 27% according to the latest figures. President Ramaphosa went on TV last night saying this move now to change the constitution, which has been mooted for some time, this is what they want to do, and particularly this measure to allow land to be expropriated without compensation. That's the highly contentious issue. That's the measure that's seen as targeting white farmers in particular.
All right, so what could this lead to? I mean, could there be a lot more reaction to this?
It has been very contentious. Of course, it conjures up images of a Zimbabwe-type situation where we saw in years past white farmers being forced from their land. The government says it's not about land grabbing. There's a certain amount of optimism, despite increasing conflicts over this. There's a certain amount of optimism amongst farmers and amongst business that this can work, that land has been transferred successfully. There's a lot of criticism saying that it may be counterproductive, and you may actually see black people being forced off their land because they have actually been acquiring land. The government says it's going to push ahead with it. There's this big stimulus package for the economy as well. It won't necessarily get through Parliament, though. And a lot depends on the reaction in the coming days, particularly from South Africa's international investors.
All right, thanks for the analysis. Alistair Sanford, thanks.
Okay, so, and I see Brother Kevin is in the house already. I got to bring up my comments because I can't see. And Brother Kevin is a South African brother, so let's I kind of give him a little more leeway in terms of what's happening. Right? It's just like Iran, people ask, should we invade Iran? First of all, do I look Iranian to you? No, I'm not Iranian. And I'm not South African either. But Brother Kevin is, and maybe we'll have some others with some other views in the house. But the whole point is this. And I lost my comments. It looks like, they don't like this topic. We're talking about colonizers. They don't like this one. I already see monkeying with the bandwidth. Man, what's wrong with y'all? We got to fix this. So, now correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like the contention really is in how the land gets reallocated. Oh man, hold on, give me a minute. I can't do this if I can't see the comments, and they're playing with my thing. Right there. See if that works. Okay. Man, this is crazy. I can't do this if I can't see comments. Y'all gonna mess me up. So, we have to fix the world. We have to fix the world. We handed all the land to the elite. They tricked everybody. They got all the land. In South Africa, it looks like they're attempting to do that. And what this stems from is a long problem of murdering folks on murdering white folks. I hate that word. Murdering South African citizens who re-immigrated from Europe whose ancestors did some really bad things. Obviously, they stole the land violently, and so this is about reallocating the land back. And what I'm saying, reintegrating, well, first of all life came from Africa to begin with. So if people from Australia, Europe, North America, wherever go back to Africa, they're actually going back to Africa. So, but I think one of the big problems is we get into this conversation about race when it comes to this, because skin color, obviously. And we were all trained, we were all indoctrinated and programmed to look at a person and judge them by the color of their skin, not the content of their character. That sounds familiar. But the reality is, Shaka Zulu, who took over a large portion of Africa, you know, would we look at it differently? That's what I want you to look at this as. You want to look at it from a neutral perspective, as though as though skin color weren't a thing. Because I don't think it's a thing. I don't think it should be a thing. It probably is a thing. And the question is, should people own land, right? You know, poverty brings about scarcity. If people don't have food, you will get to a place where you will have a revolution. You'll get to a place where they will be murdering and killing. Now, I think there's a little bit of partial stuff. Don't get me wrong. South Africa is a very violent place. It's been for a very long time. You don't get to colonize a land and not cause major, major problems for the people who live there, right? So it's a violent place. And like America, truth is, more people kill within their own races than anywhere else. More people, and that's better put, more people kill within their own communities than anybody from outside of their communities. Hang on, let me see if I can disconnect and reconnect this. This is gonna hurt me this morning. All right, come on. There you go. Thank you, CIA. Thank you, CIA. Thank you. Everybody thank the CIA. Okay, now I can see my comments again. That's what I need to see. So, how do we fix a colonized world? I think we have to view the landowners there as though they were from a Zulu tribe. They were Shaka Zulu. They were some invading tribe. I don't think we can view them from a skin color perspective. And so a lot of the big discussion is around the reappropriation of the land and whether or not you compensate people for taking the land back. I've got my perspective. I don't really believe in land ownership. This is me. I don't believe in land ownership because, to me, everything on the planet eats, right? And it's not just a human thing. It's an animal thing. It's an environment, ecosystem thing, right? I think if you're protecting the land and you're working the land, that's great. But when people own land, and they can own large swaths of it, and they can keep resources from other people, then it can get highly dangerous. It can get highly dangerous because the majority who don't own land, eventually, what are they going to do? They're going to come rob and steal it from you, or they're going to kill you, which is a lot of what's happening. So I think we take the racial part out of it, and I think we just look at it from a realistic perspective. How do we move on as children of colonizers and children who colonized? And I think it's equality. Brother Jay said we're all people of color, and we are, all of us. And this relates to Israel and West Bank and Gaza, right? And the two-state solution. It's the same thing. Do you blame? I broke down again. Do you blame people? Do you blame the children and the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren of people who did some murderously bloody things in the past? And my particular belief is, I don't think that you do. I think that you look at the present day and you come about a solution to try to fix it, right? And the present day is people have to eat. This is why we talk about consciousness, right? We talk about empathy. We talk about putting yourself in the other person's shoes. So, you know, to critique, and somebody said I'm talking about share the resources democratically or socially or communism. You know, I mean, I don't like the names and I don't like the isms. The bottom line is people got to eat. Deer's got to eat. Lions got to eat. Elephants and antelopes, everybody got to eat, right? And so anyone preventing any of the other species from eating on the land because it wants to put a big fence around it, to me, is a bad idea. I don't think that's a sentient idea. I don't think that's an idea, a species that is sentient and understanding and caring about the other creatures on the planet. I don't think that's how it would behave. I think that that's something that colonizers gave to us. So, but I'm gonna put myself in the land, put myself in the feet of someone who had ancestors who started in Africa, who migrated to Europe and then came back to, and killed a bunch of people, stole their land, but then I was born there. I'm just born and I woke up. Just like Israel, born, woke up. You know, do you blame me for something I had no parts in? But also, do I care enough about you that I don't believe this birth thing that I was born into to say, you know what? Wow, I know history. I'm reading history. I accept history. This doesn't make sense. I shouldn't own 100,000 acres of land and there are people living in shanty towns and they live on less than 5 acres. Like, that doesn't make sense, but I think we make it worse for ourselves. I think the farmers there are making it worse for themselves too. If I were there, well, first of all, I probably wouldn't be there. That's number one. I don't ever underestimate the the nefarious nature of a human being backed into a corner. When people are backed into poverty, you will always get some really evil behavior out of them, which is why politicians, even there in South Africa, they need to put a muzzle on a few people who are making things worse. But I wouldn't be there personally. But if I were and I couldn't leave and I had to stay there, I would probably start reintegrating people onto my property. That's what I would do outside of what the government's doing right now. I would, because I can't fathom how somebody with empathy, somebody with a brain that's evolving and sentient would say, you know what, you got to stay off my land. You'll starve to death. Outside the fact that they probably will come kill me, I would want to take care of people. I think I would bring people back on my land, back on the land, and I would say, listen, here's the deal. You work this area, I'll give this area to you. You work it, we'll sign the deed, it's in your name. You do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. But the real question is, why won't they do something like that? Because I was listening to some of the debate, and some of the debate was going back and forth. It said, well, people are coming and killing farmers for greed. Yeah, that's true. That is true. But people are also being killed. The farmers are keeping the land out of greed too. Right? So the only reason you wouldn't start reallocating land without a government forcing you to is because you don't really care about the people who are starving and dying, a few miles down the road in a shanty town. So it's still a greed issue. It's still a greed issue. But I think that the farmers could have made this easier if they started reintegrating people back. So, the funny thing is, when you take care of people, what happens, what they do, they take care of you. When you take care of people, they take care of you. They look out for you. But when you don't, when you get armed bands, guns, men to try to protect this land that you have no rights to, because I don't think any human being has the rights to. Even the people who want to come back, they don't have rights to the land because the land was stolen by somebody else and their ancestors stole it from them and somebody else stole it from them and then somebody stole it from some damn animals. Right? But this is why, again, I go back to conscience and being sentient. So you say, okay, I'm trying to read some of the comments I go through because to me, it's an important topic. Because if this is what broke the planet, this is why you have poverty. Before colonization, you didn't have mass starvation and poverty. You didn't have single monetary systems in banks and the Federal Reserve and fractional reserve banking and like perpetual war. But before we even get too deep into that, I like it as a topic because it makes us to start to think about, is colonization bad? That's the first question. I think the first question we might need to ask ourselves, because I don't know that we all agree. We all agree that murdering people and taking their land, making them slaves, or forcing them into labor is bad. If we can agree to that, And this is why I don't think it's in the news. I think this is why it was. I had to find, and it was way down on Al Jazeera, like at the bottom. It's like a little clip. But everywhere else, they were talking about Iran and the invasions and everything else. And this is why I think now, because I think if we really think about it, it's not the one I want to show you. I think if we really, really think about it, colonization is happening today. So I think the first question is whether or not colonization is bad. Because I think a lot of the people in the discussion actually are benefiting from colonization. I know I am. The only reason I'm even coming to you and I'm broadcasting this mess to you is because I am a recipient of the great wealth of colonization of various countries. Now, mind you, they're debt colonies. They're not necessarily where you start putting farmers on the land, but you start putting debt on the farmers, right? You start putting debt on the government. So the first question is whether or not we still should be colonizing today. I think that's the first question for the children who benefit from the activities, the colonization of all of our ancestors and the ones that were colonized. Should colonization be happening today? And an agreement that it is happening. And we're doing it every single day, all over this world, on every single continent. First question, and if we can agree that colonizing, robbing, and looting other people is a bad concept, then we can talk about how do we fix a world where this has happened all over. How do we fix this? Do you know black landowners had white slaves back in the day? Question mark, Brother Jay. Yes, I do. And yes, it's true. Yes, I do. And yes, it's true. One of the biggest owners of slaves, gone to America, biggest owner of slaves was actually a son of a slave and a landowner. I forgot his name, and I forgot the state too. But he owned like 122 slaves. They were all black. He was black. So slavery isn't a race thing. It never has been. It's not a skin color thing. It's a domination thing. It's this colonizer mindset. Before they were called colonizers, we were tribes invading each other, and we're still doing it today. So yeah, absolutely. Which is why we can't get lost in the whole white black thing. Everything that comes out of South Africa is going to be in that mode, right? In that scheme of division and not solving a problem. And probably most people in your country, when they talk about it, they're going to talk about the white landowners. The fact of the matter is, if those landowners were black, it still wouldn't matter. When you have a large portion of all the wealth and the food being locked in by one group of people, or by a 0.01%, you're always going to have that. You're always going to have that problem. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to go. I got to keep clicking this daggone button. They keep suspending my thing. I don't know why we can't have a good discussion anymore. Anyway, what else we got? Colonization. No, it is violent. Do not join the Navy to see the world. If and you're gonna see another country, take a trip. I agree, Deborah, and it is violent. It is violent. But we have a colonizing society, right? So it's not just the military, it's not just the Navy, it's not just the Air Force. The entire, all governments who have big militaries are all colonizing because they can and they will. So, we can't even stop colonization until we stop governments from having militaries, which is why we talk about that. Slavery and politics to gain and maintain power. Right. And it's always about power. It's always about enslaving someone to gain power over them, which is this colonizing mindset. Let me see. South Africa is a failed experiment by the British Empire when they created the Union of South Africa in 1910. Before that, there were several smaller states, including 3 independent African republics. Brother Kevin, okay, and I agree with you. It is a fail, but and it's not just South Africa, who I want to talk about in a greater sense. I think South Africa is driving the conversation, but the reality is that colonization is a failed experiment. Period. Right? Like it failed everywhere, not just in South Africa. It's failed everywhere. Because they colonized everybody. They put these governments in to keep the colonies going, to keep the money flowing. They bring the taxes and the debt and how all that nonsense works with the banks, and they failed everywhere. And this is why I think we got to have this conversation. How in the world do we do this in a way that's fair? Now, to me, Personally, I don't think, I think you have to redistribute land. I don't think you get past that. But has anyone done any calculations to determine, how land would be redistributed? I think it has to be redistributed equally, right? I agree with the whole 40 acres and a mule, but the reality is every birth human should be allocated more than 40 acres. I think the breakdown was something like in the thousands of acres if you actually start to break this stuff really apart. So everybody has to have land, right? Because water is life and land is freedom. And I think you being born on this planet, you should be free. Not because you're a human being, you shouldn't be subject to some sort of a government that wants to keep you in forced labor. I think you should be free like an antelope. I think you should be free as an elephant. You should be able to walk and live your life, but you should be given some sort of land, not necessarily to own, but maybe allocation so that it's yours to work and live how you choose to live, that freedom. Let me see. Where have the Brits succeeded in colonization? Well, Mary, nowhere, nowhere. Just like I said, no one succeeded in colonization because people don't want to be colonized. People don't want to be forced into labor. People don't want to be forced into your society. They don't want to be forced into your currency. They don't want to be forced into your banks. North Korea. They don't want to be forced, into your central banking schemes, right? Nobody wants to have forced labor. Redistribute the power paradigm. Yes, and that's where we are. We are in this redistribute the power. Like people say things, Jeannie, they'll say things like eat the wealthy. Don't say stuff like that. People, come on. Like that's just as reverse evil as those who colonize, right? Like kids who were born into, let's say, a wealthy colonized land. These kids, do we really want to blame them for what their ancestors did that they had no part in? They were just born there. I don't think we do. I think though that as you redistribute the land, if it's not equal and there's a guy down there owns 22 million acres, then of course he's going to have to change his lifestyle. His family is going to have to change their lifestyle because there are South Africans who are in need of that land. They need to eat, they need water, they need lifestyles, and they're not just what y'all would call black. They're Indian. They're probably Dutch. They're all type. They're mixed, right? Because how do you even do that? What is white even? Is it, you're three quarter-roons, seven quarter-roons quad? If your parents, your mom and daddy was white, black, whatever, then it gets too crazy. I think you redistribute things equally. But I think it's an allocation. But the other thing I think, though, is look at America. America's another failed experiment. You can't have and I don't know if this is communism, but you can't have a government that owns the land either. Now, maybe a governing group body, if y'all want to keep these government things going, I don't want to. I think we should go back to tribes, but that's me. If y'all want to keep these government things going, they can't own the land, right? Because if they own the land, then you're putting in the constructs for corruption down the road. The land, there has to be some sort of a governing group that allocates land to when kids are born. So when they're born, their land plots. Like how y'all go to the movies, you go to the movies and you pick the seats. In the perfect world, to me, how it should work is when kids are born, they pick the plot they want, and that's their plot to go do with however they need to. That's what I kind of think. When I say eat the rich, I'm joking, honestly. I wasn't talking about you, girl. I wasn't talking about you. I'm just saying in general, we say these things, and I get metaphorically, I get that. It's like metaphorically, we need to eat what the wealthy has. We need to redistribute it, but leave some for the wealthy. Like my perspective, the landowners there, I think they should be compensated. Not because they had any rights to the land, but because those kids probably don't have any idea how to survive. I don't know that they should be compensated what the land is super worth and they should be super wealthy from it, but they should have a type of a lifestyle, right? Like I think it should be something. Let me see. Wildlife habitat and foraging range ought to be factored into it too. Humans are displaced, our other species, brothers and sisters. Absolutely, right? So, and this is why I say and allocation, right? And working the land. Like we have to think about the other species too. If we don't have an environment, we don't get to live here either. And so as we move forward into a new model for the world that actually works, it has to work for the environment. If it doesn't work for the whole ecosystem, then it's all pointless. If everybody plows down their land and grows as much genetically modified soy and genetically modified corn, we're all going to die anyway. What's going on, brother Pat? Substantial farming. Yes, brother Kevin, it should be substantial farming, and it should be sustainable farming. And absolutely, if people have food, they have land, they have water, they're not as angry, right? They don't fall into these little categories, you're black, you're white, these little fencing that the colonizers gave them. When you have less violent people, then you have a society that works. Human rights and equality for all. Exactly, brother Patrick, and I totally agree. And this is the thing, is you have equality across the board. But we have to get past these birth fences. We have to get past this birth tribalism that I'm this. We have to accept that colonizing is happening right now. So it's not even just cleaning up the mess that the ancient colonizers, the legacy colonizers made. We now got to clean up the mess that these fools making now. And when I say fools, I'm not talking about the people on the plane, because they're just as much, well, they're kind of foolish. They're definitely foolish. I won't call them fools. They're foolish, but they're no more foolish than the people who work on Wall Street. They're no more foolish than the people who carry laptops and go into corporate America and work, the business class that support the war effort and support the war economy. All industries in the West all support war, all of them. All of them make money on war. All of them make cogs, tiddlywinks, and spacely sprockets for war. And all war is colonization. And it's a racket. It's always been stealing land and other people's resources, which is why I don't like the contradictory debates. I don't like it when you're okay with invading Iran. You're okay with Iraq and Afghanistan, and you're okay with all of this. But then you look back in the past and you judge people who colonized back then, and they're worse than you are. To me, that's as hypocritical as the argument that people who got cell phones today and they're looking back at Robert E. Lee and they're calling him a bad guy, knocking down his statues, but they're okay with modern slavery today because they got the cell phone. So we have to be honest in the discussion. Let me flip back to the legacy colonizers. I like the legacy colonizers a little better. I think the legacy colonizers, they did more out of what they did because they were stupid. Today, we have no right to be stupid. We have an internet. We can look at history. We know what happened. We know we're always lied to, and we need to pay attention to that. So, all right, let's keep going. Let me see. Live by the permaculture principles, or the habitability of the planet becomes impossible for some. Exactly. And if it becomes impossible for some, what do those people do, Deborah? They kill you. It's not like a hard puzzle. It's not like it's math or calculus or nothing. It's just, if your neighbor's starving, they're gonna come next door and kill you and take your beans. That's just how that works. And so if we want to live in peace, we have to have that equality. Welfare is designed to be dependent on the government, not necessarily self-sufficient. Exactly, Crystal, which is why I don't think that, the model is you give everything to government and they reallocate everything. I think the requirement of government right now is to undo colonization. I think it's to fix that. And then we don't give them a damn thing, because then we'll just end up with big government, which is a failed government all the time anyway. We have to move forward, and moving forward is people having the power, people working the land, people deriving 100%. If we want to keep money, I don't want to keep money. Y'all want to keep money. If we keep money, 100% of that, the effort of that land has to go back to that person. Government, you got to make your money another way. That's how we go. We don't want another big government. I declare myself a free person of the world. I just want an island and privacy. Asking for Brother Kevin. I do too. And you are a free citizen of the earth. You were born here. You have a right, like a bee, to fly to another country. You have the right to go to another state. You have a right to set up a beehive on a tree that a colonizer didn't call a French tree, but a European, England tree. You have a right to do that, but we all have to agree. And this is where, again, this gets back to the whole sentient and consciousness conversation. This is why a lot of people think my friends and I are kind of crazy. It's not crazy. If you accept other people's free will to go live their lives, and this isn't a hard concept. It's actually very easy. But if you feel entitled to the power that the colonizers gave you, the job and, corporations and, the cars and the houses, if you feel entitled to that, while they have 100 more than you, billions more than you in the bank, And in the real near future, they're going to get rid of you and your kids and your jobs. And if you feel entitled to that for the next 10, 15, 20 years, when robots taking over, is there a date for that? That's why I think we have to have these conversations now. We have to have these reality conversations about where we're going. In South Africa, the whole world needs to be focused on them right now. How do we undo this? Trade time, not money. Yes, Brother Patrick, because money is another failed experiment. I'd love to hear some. I wait for someone to tell me how it's not. I'm waiting for someone to tell me. Because what the number one killer of human life on this planet has always been malaria. Number two has got to be money. Number two absolutely has to be money. And then how many people die from malaria for a lack of money? There are relationships there. So I agree with you. Money, well, money's going away anyway. So that's a dead story. That's already, robots don't work for money. So, but definitely trade time for life. But you can make that trade on your own, right? Like you can go work your own land, make your own food, live your own life. Like Brother Kevin says, you don't have to, utilize money. Using a slave-made iPhone to live stream the removal of slave statute hypocrites. Yes, Ellen, exactly. And that's exactly my point. We all derive benefits from slavery, every last one of us, even the ones who talk the most about it. The only difference in me live streaming from my slave devices is I accept it and I talk about it as often as I can, because I don't think that these should be slave devices anymore. I think that we need to be honest with ourselves, and we need to be honest that we all sell out, especially in the West. The more impoverished countries, not so much, but in the West, we all sell out. The question is, there are those of us who want to continue selling out, and those of us who want to bring it to an end. Those of us who want a new model. Those of us who want to emancipate the slaves around the world. Finally, number one is ignorance. Brother Kevin, absolutely. And that's why we're still here having the conversation, is ignorance. Like a lot of people, Brother Kevin, I say, you're a South African. Some people say, he's not South African. He's South African. Look at his skin. First of all, where did all life come from? He is. His people left Africa, they went somewhere else, and then they came back. And now, while no one agrees with how they came back, I hope nobody agrees with how they came back, the reality is you were born there. And being born there, your government should be protecting you. Your government shouldn't be turning on you because of your skin. Your government should be thinking about reallocations that are fair. Diamonds and furs, cars for hers. Can't take it with you when you're riding in a hers. Jen Powell, oh, that's hilarious. Yes, exactly. You can't take any of it with you. But colonizers convince people that they get to take it with them. So they believe in this stuff and they cheer this stuff. Brother Patrick can't hear any sound. You got to turn your sound up, brother. You got a little sound thing. You got to turn it. You got a little dial. You got to press it on your phone. Yes, ignorance is the enemy. Ignorance is always the enemy. Ignorance is always, which is why they're coming for the internet, which is why they shut down half of the broadcast when people start talking about like equality and peace and freedom, and they delete those accounts on Twitter and they get rid of them because ignorance is king. Ignorance is how you make your money. You get people dumb and stupid. You get them to think that they're black, they're white, they're Asian, they're this, that, whatever. And you get other people to blame them for what their ancestors did, that they didn't do anything. They were just born on this planet eating some Gerber food, cuckoo caca, just like everybody else. But they get people in these tribal fences, they get them fighting each other, and ignorance makes a whole lot of money. And they rob all of us. They get you fighting with your neighbor, and they rob everything that's in the neighborhood. That's how the 0.01% work, and they are very good at their game. Very good. Just look around. Look around. Very good. People still talking about black this, black, white that. Very good at their game. If we accept that we are all colonizers, that is happening still today, and we all derive benefits from it, and people are being colonized as we're talking about fixing the mess of these idiots from legacy colonization. Now then our kids and our grandkids got to clean up the mess of what they're doing now in Iran. But that would bring about a very clear discussion that there can't be any war in Iran, that we're not Iranian. It's not my place. What should I do about in Iran? Do I look Iranian to you? Do I? No, it's not my place. It's my place to have my. It's like another good one is North Korea, right? So Trump worked out a deal to bring home 5,000 troops, 5,000 soldiers who were left in North Korea after the war, because we don't leave any men behind. Yeah, right. They'll leave everybody behind. They don't give a damn. They'll leave people behind and smack them on their behind. And if you don't believe me, talk to the veterans, talk to the troops, ask them if they're being taken care of. We leave them behind over there, we leave them behind here. And that's why 22 a day are committing suicide. So we leave troops behind all the damn time because colonizers don't care. It's not about America, democracy, and freedom and defense. It's about money, big money, invasion, and taking what other people have. That's what it's always been about, you know. But anyway, so Trump worked out a deal to bring 5,000 people home. And the question is cheering, yay, thank you, North Korea, thank you, Trump. No, those 5,000 men shouldn't have been there. Shouldn't have been. Where Linda at? Is Linda here? Where Linda at? Linda, come here. Linda, tell these people, not supposed to be there. I'm not done with Linda yet. No, she's not supposed to be there. Those 5,000 soldiers in North Korea, they weren't supposed to be there. Not supposed to be there. Somebody needs to be picking up a cell phone, calling and telling. Why in the hell are you sending more troops? You lining up to send 500,000 troops to Iran to start another war, and we just barely got the 5,000 home from North Korea. Not supposed to be there. It's not our land. It's not our place. Linda need to tell on the colonizers too, damn it. Get on that cell phone, telling the people, not this one, not the modern colonizers, because no, not the legacy. Where the modern folks at? There they go. The modern, they're not supposed to be on the plane. They're not supposed to be flying over your land. They're not supposed to be landing, and they're not supposed to be fighting nobody. This is just the reality. Yeah, the schools are dumbed down. Yes, the schools are dumbed down, Kimberly, because the dumber we are, the more money they can make. Brother Patrick, those stupid earthlings. We are stupid, Brother Patrick. That's why the aliens aren't coming back no time soon. I think we're just a universal television show, and they just watch how dumb we are. That's all they do. I suppose the whites aren't allowed asylum. Ooh, Crystal. To be honest with you, as you know, Brother Kevin probably can answer that question better. But the reality is when you have this amount of anger and hatred and racism, because that's what it is, against white folks in South Africa, you're not going to have types of, I mean, you'll have some asylum. Like if you I listen to like a lot of the talk shows there was just for the past day or so, listening to the stuff that's happening. I mean, they're talking revolution. People are getting up guns and arms, but you have a lot of folks who are, I guess we'll call them legacy South Africans, not the ones that migrated and came back, but the legacy who are like, no, this is not how we do business. This is not, you know, we don't want to kill people. You know, I think is it Julius is one of the leader of is the EFF who's yelling and screaming, dancing and singing about kill the Boer and pick up guns and stuff like that. You have a lot of that craziness because, yeah, poor people are dangerous people. Starve. This is why you don't starve people to begin with. But also you have to be sentient enough to not turn on those people and say, you know what, listen, you got a better deal than I have when I was born. The stork dropped me here, stork dropped you there, but I don't want you killed. And I want you to live a life too. You were born into your situation. I was born into mine. How do we get through this? But I obviously can't stay living in a shanty town, eating trash, living around junk with no water. You know, it has to be a common sense discussion, right? It has to be a sentient debate. And so I think that there are a lot of people that y'all call black in South Africa who aren't standing for it, you know, and they'll make sure that they look out for the white brothers and sisters that are down there. But we can't cheer the ignorance. This is why it has to be a world discussion. The world has to be paying attention because that's the only way that you prevent this from blowing up into something it shouldn't be, where everybody is taken care of and you don't have any prejudice against anyone for where they were born or the setup of the government that's corrupt and screwed up in South Africa. You know, because it's possible that if they actually get this right, if they actually do it in a way that works out for the next generation, it could be a solution to decolonize the world. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about decolonizing the world. I'm all about freedom, liberty. I'm not sure if the word is democracy. I'm a little scared of democracy because if most people agree with it, still doesn't mean it's a good idea. Democracy is a dangerous word. Like I said, gang rape is a democracy. I'm not sure that I care that everybody agrees with it. All I care about is you have your rights as a sentient, sovereign being born on this planet to do what the other animals do. Walk around, eat food, and poop in places. I think that's important. It was a sadistic war. It was a horrific war. Yes, Patrick, it was. All war is. The wars we fight today are sadistic. The wars we fight today are horrific. And I think we got to keep that in mind. you know, that we look back, look at history, and we understand today that they cover up a lot of it, so we really don't know how bad it is. We don't get to see what's really happening in the places we're fighting wars. So we need to be as anti-war today as they were back then. But that's what it always is. It's always some colonizers. I had a picture of Shaka Zulu. I put him up there too. You know, but it's the same evil. It's the same exact evil, and so it's a good discussion I think people need to have. Let me see. The most consistent sound of man is the war of drums, Cicero, Roman philosopher, and polymath. Deep in history, brother Kevin. I I know that about the Romans, but you got me on the rest of it. Post a link. I'll take a look at it. Make me think of the Wilder Books Farmer Boy from Brenda. Sounds coming in and out, scrambled. Well, Celia, they do that. They do that. I'm not allocated equal bandwidth. I'm not supposed to have equal bandwidth because I'm not telling people they need to go shopping. I'm not telling people they're black. Black people fight for black people. Black people, Africa. You know, I'm not doing that. And so they don't like me. So I get a lower bandwidth. So you'll hear my sound probably go in and out. But I think you can come back and watch it later or watch it on YouTube or somewhere else. And you can get all the sound then. But this is the game we play. But this is the world the colonizers built. A world where war is good, war is beneficial, human farming is good. People who think they're black are great. People who think they're white are great. Anyone who just says, you know what, can we all just give peace a chance? Can we just give non-colonization a chance? Can we just give decolonization without violence, making sure everybody gets taken care of in equality? Can we give that a chance? You know, because other than that, you just become your enemy, right? And what's the benefit? Like, that's the hypocrisy. You know, oh, well, I'm mad that you took over the world, so I want to take over the world. That's hypocrisy. You know, I'm mad that you're bombing places because you're Trump. I want my people to get in there and bomb places. You know, like that's hypocrisy. You know, destroyer of worlds. And that's what you become. You become the evil that you talk against. And that's the difference between somebody who wants to fix the planet and someone who just actually wants to dominate the planet. That's the difference. If they gave equality to everyone, exactly, Brother Patrick, if they did, we'd be good to go. Democracy is mob rule. Yes, it is, Rebecca. Democracy with human rights. Yeah, Patrick, I don't know even what that looks like. You know, I don't know all the modern styles of government people like to talk about. Like I said, I'm not into politics, don't know nothing about that. But I do know that people should get to decide, and there's a democratic element to moving people forward as long as there is a line, right? There's a sovereignty line that you don't go inside anybody else's body. If they're on some land, working in land, they got an ecosystem going on, this happening, you're not allowed to go in and knock down the bushes and pee in the lake and pour pesticides everywhere, inject vaccines in them and tell them when they can and can't have an abortion. As long as we can respect those lines, you know, I have to agree with what Brother Kevin is saying is that, you know, democracy is good until it becomes violent. Maybe that's the right word. Like the rules of force and violence, right? When democracy becomes violent, which is why somebody asked me, what am I going to do in the midterm elections? I'm not going to vote for people who want to kill people. That's what I'm going to do. They ask, well, what do you do if both sides are bad? If both sides want to kill people, I'm not voting for it. I don't vote for people who kill people, and I don't vote for people who are in parties that have solutions based on killing people, because colonization parties, right? So watch the triggers, and I'm gonna make Sister Linda go away, but we have Sister Linda tell on y'all, right? Because how is it that you're against colonizers, but you're voting for colonizing political parties? Explain that one to me. Somebody tell me about that. Run, tell that, Linda. All right, Linda, get out of here. You know, all right, we'll slide back. What else y'all got? Oh, Brother Kevin says, I wanted to kind of lean a little harder on Brother Kevin because he's right there in the crux of it. I lost the comment. You posted a link. Thank you, brother. I think there was some other stuff went down that I missed. But I go back and I read the comments. So I'll read them later. I have to keep us up on the screen. Democracy only works with coffee people. Yes, democracy only works, Glenn, when people are calm, when their brains are going, when they got caffeine. It only works when people are sentient, when people have empathy and conscience. Absolutely, totally agree. No picking cotton. No picking cotton. No, Brenda. Nobody. And nobody should be picking any damn cotton anyway. We got robots to do that. The robot. We have. That's what we have two choices, Brenda. Our choices in this world is the robots do the work, and everybody benefits, or the robots do the work for the 0.01%, and the majority of us die. Those are our solution. Those are the only two choices we have. They pretend there are other choices. They pretend the left has a choice, and the right is a choice, and the Democrats are a choice, and the Republicans are a choice. And none of those things are choices. Life is very simple. We had choices right now if you're a human being, because human labor means absolutely nothing in the near future. Our choices are the robots work for the 0.01% and we go away, or the robots work for everybody. That's the line. There are no other lines. That's it. My first live stream was labeled explicit immediately and thus had no sound. Yes, Brother Gavin, I missed that. I have to go back and watch it. You have to tag me in that stuff so I know when you guys go live. Absolutely. I love to watch it. But yeah, they do that. Right off the bat, the label, I think all of my broadcasts are labeled explicit now. There's one of the sisters on there, she jokes every time she shares it. She's like, oh, here's another explicit talk about peace and don't kill people. You know, they do that because that is explicit. To a colonized world that's based in debt and control, if you're talking about peace, oh hell yeah, you are a threat. You are a bad guy. You're explicit, right? Explicit, that word is almost dependent upon who's in control, because that determines what's explicit. Some people, pornography is explicit. To other people, you know, whatever it is, abortion might be explicit. And right now, war runs the world. War runs my country, and I think you're in my country. So obviously, you know, talking about peace and get along and take money from the banks, that's explicit. And so social media has to label it that. But it's not a social media thing. I think social media, they just want to make money. They're greedy bastards like everybody else. They just want to make money, like the people at work right now. The difference is the CIA wants to make a hell of a lot more money. So the CIA makes sure these security agents, it's probably not in the CIA anymore, to be honest with you. CIA, they probably don't do nothing. They're probably sitting on the sofa like, oh man, we're retired. Why do they keep talking about us? They're probably not even doing anything, because they're like 14 security agencies around the world doing that stuff right now. And so by the time that, you know, you have all these CIA whistleblowers coming out, they're all retired. They're like, we're old news. We stopped knocking countries off 20 years ago. You need to talk about the NOP. That's the new agency, you know, because we don't find out anything till it's all long past we can do anything about it. But that's the colonized world. Secrecy everywhere. Governments run everything. It may be my title. Deep State in the Weeds with Ticks. Yeah, you can't say that. Can't say deep state. And you can't say deep state, you can't say peace, you can't say CIA, you can't say FBI, you can't say, you know, love everybody. You can't say stuff like that, Brother Gown. Politicians are not selected, they're elected. Yes, Alan, no politicians are selected. They're all selected ahead of time. Voting is for sheeple. Yes, I agree with that. I am not in the camp for voting. I think every election is always modified. I think meddling, like, yeah, they're still talking about meddling, Ellen. I think meddling is like fighting. It's not farting, it's fighting. That's Debbie talk, fighting. F-O-T. Because she don't call them frogs, she call them frogs. If they're frogs, it's fight. You know, it's like fight. You know, the first person who complains about a fight is the person who did the fight. That's how it works. First person who complains about meddling is the person who did the meddling. The first group that cries meddle, that's them, which is why they killed Seth Rich. Which is why I posted that the other day. We got to keep talking about Seth Rich. Keep talking about Seth Rich. You know, we need to get someone to probably run and sit on the platform when they're having the Democratic debate. When they start talking about stuff, somebody says, Seth Rich, answer to every question. Seth Rich. What are you going to do about North Korea? Seth Rich. What are you going to do about Iran? Seth Rich. What are you going to do about Seth Rich? Like, we have to keep that going. You don't get to murder people and stay in power. That's a bad idea. In rewarding greed. Yes, Yuli, we have to shame greed. Like, it's not even about, I think, in rewarding greed, we have to shame it. And in South Africa, we have to shame it on the big landowner side. And we also have to shame it on the sides of the people who want to kill them and take it for them because they want it, right? And we need to cheer people who are like, you know what? Let's just have everything equal. Let's just all get along. Let's give everybody everything they need so we can stop all this arguing, fussing, and fighting. We need to shame greed on all sides at all times. And it certainly shade the colonizers today flying C-130s and C-141s sending kids who just want to defend their country off to fight for banks. In a world full of lies, deceit, and telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Yes, it is, Crystal, which is why they don't want it at all. Time trading and time banks. That sounds good, Patrick. I know a little bit about that. The UN, goodness, I was going to read the brother's post, went up too fast. Technology is part of evolution. It is, and we need to use all technology, Crystal, to help people. Once again, the golden rules apply. The golden rule applies: do unto others, do no harm. And if we could stick to that, Tanya, we'd have nothing to talk about. You know what we'd be talking about right now? You know, there was a cow hit in the road in, where was that? In Australia. Yep, a cow was hit. It was crossing the road. There'll be nothing on the news to talk about, which is why I think it's part of the sick thing about the news, is that they need something to get people dramatic about. And then all the media loves war. They love war because people watch it. They love the sensationalism. But if we actually just stick to the golden rule of leave everybody alone, we wouldn't have any of these problems. I should change my name to Seth Rich and run for president. Yes, you should, Alan, and I am voting for you. That's a good way to make me vote. One of my troll friends run, because Ellen is a troll. Ellen is a thug troll. I got a list of trolls. Let me see. Who are the trolls? The big trolls, Ellen and Jay and Emrys, Jessica. That's thug life. Y'all some thug. Y'all some like true thugs. Y'all go around. I see y'all on other people's posts. It's the funniest thing, but I'll vote for a troll. I'll vote for a troll. Just get on the platform and just troll them. Remind everybody that they're murdering. That's it. That's what I was saying the other day. You know, when people say the word Zionist, I'm against the word. I don't like it anymore. I think it's confusing. I think that they use these names. I think Brother Jay was talking about it. They use these labels to hide with other people, right? Like, oh, and this applies to South Africa too, right? They use this thing. They call them white farmers, to get you to hate all white farmers, right? While there's a very small percentage that are psychopathic, that are actually probably still, they have slaves, or they just don't kill, they don't care, and they love colonization. It's a very small percentage, but they get the massive population attacking all white farmers, which is why they use these terms like white supremacy, you know, white pride, white, they do this because they walk people down this ignorant path, and they allow the psychopaths to hide amongst good people. That's a problem. If you got to vote, then vote vermin supreme. Okay, I'm not sure I'm going to vote, Deborah. How about a renters strike for a renters bill of rights? That's interesting, Justin. A renters strike for a renter bill of rights. I'm not sure I believe in rent, Dustin. Let's think about that. Do I believe in rent? I can't believe in rent because I don't think anybody should own, because it's based in a colonizer model, the idea of renting. Why would anybody want to rent an apartment or a house or land from you if when they're born, they get their birthright of being able to walk and go where they need to, and they have an allocation of land that they can maintain if they want? So I'm not sure I agree with the renters' rights bill. But I get it. I get what you're saying though, because sometimes you got to walk people into being where we're supposed to be. And so that's why I'm not against a renters' rights bill. I'm not against a renters' protest. I'm not against universal basic income. I'm not against any of these things you guys would call socialism, because we got to walk into taking care of people, right? Like, I don't think it's universal health care. I don't believe any of that nonsense exists. Before the world was colonized, we always took care of everybody. So I think the long picture is, you do have to have renters' rights. You have to have the ability to take care of people. You have to look out for them. But never lose sight of the long picture. And the long picture is a human being born has every rights as a giraffe, right? And we should support that. The unelected permanent state seems to have seized all the levers. Yes, they have. Yes, they absolutely, Brother Dustin. Absolutely. They've seized all the levers. And it's not like they even hide it, do they? They don't hide it because Obama said it. He's just like, oh, you don't have to be so worried about Trump because we have the deep state and things kind of happen the way they're supposed to, and he's not going to be able to change much. So we do know that, there is a deep state, and we do know that they control these things, and we do know, so they don't even hide it anymore. Let me see. Love y'all, gotta run. Kelly, I gotta run too. I'm colonized, I gotta work too. I'm just about to get out of here. Last couple comments. I don't believe in rent either. And that doesn't stop them from charging it and stopping from having my own land. Right, Dustin? Because it's stupid. It's dumb. If you keep people from having a life and a place to live and you force them to work and they don't have a job and they can't work, they go homeless. They go homeless. They start robbing people. Like it's a formula for another failed experiment, like Brother Kevin was talking about. You know, South Africa is a failed state. I think every state is a failed state. But we keep making bad decisions and we know history. Why do we keep making bad decisions that just simply don't work? Yo, Dilla, what's going on? Long time. I'm just about to disappear. Good to see you on YouTube. This is who he is, the short version. Okay, you clicked Vermin Supreme. Thank you, Deborah. I have to take a look at it. Psychopaths in government are because the majority of people are too lazy and self-indulgent to change it. Apparently, it's not their problem. Exactly, Kevin. Yes. I kind of think psychopaths in government are put there by psychopaths not in government. I kind of think that when you support groups and parties that murder as a solution, you know, in South Africa, like America, like France, like the UK, like all over, if you're supporting groups that use murder as a solution and violence as an answer, you might want to go get your brain scanned. Just a little bit. You just might want to. It's not a sentient thing. It's not an empathetic thing. It's not an enlightened thing. How about a new Homesteaders Act? We do need a Homesteaders Act, Dustin. You know what I like, Dustin? I like, where was I? I was in Belize, and they had homesteader rights, right? If somebody wasn't using land, you can go set up camp on the land. It becomes your land. If you build a structure and work the land for a certain amount of time, I believe in that. I believe in that because why? A bee can do that. A slug can do that. A mosquito can do that. A bear can do that. And if all these creatures can do that and we say human beings aren't, there's something really sick about us. I like that. We need some sort of a homesteading act. I like that. If you got anything on that, Brother Dustin, I'd love to see it. It seems to be a corporate monopoly for the oligarchy. It is a corporate monopoly, Patrick. They run everything and they run everybody. And we have to, at the root of everything, say, no, that's it. That's it. Life has just a few basics. Imagine if all living beings had just that. Just imagine where we could go. Imagine that, Jeannie. Imagine. Life has a few basics. And I think the problems are a lot easier than we think. I think the problems in South Africa are a lot easier than we think. I think the problems around the world are a lot easier than we want them to be. I think the problems in America and in the UK and all over the world, they're a lot easier. Stop cheering. Fix the world post-colonization, right? Fix the world for people who do want to homestead, Kim. Fix the world for people who want to live a harm-free life. And those who want to continue on with the modern way, working for Wall Street, big business, and the war engine, I really don't know what to say to them. To be honest with you, I don't know. All I know is we have to keep talking. We have to keep sharing. We have to keep, appreciate your shares, appreciate your likes. We have to continue to try to waken sleeping people who keep posting about how awake AF they are. Anyway, listen, y'all, I gotta go. Love y'all to death. Y'all have a great day. Good discussion. The world needs to pay attention to South Africa. If you have anything on South African land reform, you need to post it. You should post the news, because that's important. Fixing the colonized world is more important than everything else they want to talk about. And that's why it's at the bottom of the news, because they don't want you talking about it. They don't want you to having very logical conversations that colonization and legacy was wrong and colonization right damn today is wrong. Have a great day. Gotta run. Bye-bye.